Speaking of teams that we're excited to cover, we have the XFL season schedule has dropped finally, and we know when our SeaDragons will be taking over. So let's take a look at that. On the 5th, we found out when the schedule would drop. Here we'd have the first half of the season pictured here with Ben DiNucci. Week 1 at the DC Defenders, so the Seattle team starts out on the road, is February 19th with a 5 p.m. start time. That game is going to be broadcast on ESPN. So not going to be hard to find that game there. Week 2 versus the St. Louis Battlehawks. That is the first home game in SeaDragons history. And this iteration of the XFL is February 23rd with a 6 p.m. start. That's on FX. Week 3 is at the Vegas Vipers, which is a March 4th game at 4 p.m. That's on FX as well. Week 4 versus the San Antonio Brahmas back at home at Lumen Field is a March 11 game at 7 p.m. That is also on FX. A lot of games on FX. And then week 5 versus the Houston Roughnecks, March 16th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. That game is also on FX. That's the first half of the season. Second half here is we've got Josh Gordon pictured there in his Chiefs attire. Week 6 at the Orlando Guardians is a March 25th game with a 10:30 a.m. start. That's on ESPN. Week 7 at the Arlington Renegades is a March 31st game at 4 o'clock, which is an FX game as well. Week 8 at home versus the DC Defenders is an April 9th game at 4 o'clock. That's on ESPN2. Week 9 at the St. Louis Battlehawks on the road is an April 16th game at 12 o'clock. That's on ESPN as well. And to finish out the regular season, they do so at home at Lumen Field in Week 10 versus the Vegas Vipers, April 23rd, 6 p.m. That is an ESPN2 game. So, a really impressive impressive. It's really exciting to see that. If you need me, you need to pause. We'll go back. Here's that one. And here's that one. I'm just excited to see this. I can't give you too much insight on what that season will look like, but just it's cool to have Vegas involved, and San Antonio, St. Louis, and DC are back, obviously, same as Houston. It'll be really interesting to see over the course of the next few weeks. Training camp actually began today. So training camp for the SeaDragons began today. A bunch of the players are down, I believe, in San Antonio or somewhere in Texas, I believe. With training camp, they're getting their gear. They were getting size for it yesterday. Training camp begins today. So Jim Haslett, the head coach, June Jones, the offensive coordinator, they've got a lot of things to work on. But Seattle is viewed by some people as an early favorite to be one of the better teams in the league, with veteran guys from the NFL like DiNucci and like Josh Gordon. It's hard to argue against that. There's also something that kind of came in really recently. The XFL announced that they announced some. There we go. They announced some assignment players added to the training camp rosters. I'll get to that here for you for the SeaDragons. Offensive tackle Jared Aiken out of Winston-Salem State. Joe Beckett, an inside linebacker out of Wofford. Adam Kuhn, offensive tackle out of Michigan. Imani Donadell, wide receiver out of Northwest Missouri State. Ladarius Galloway, a running back out of Tennessee Martin. Zafir Kelly, a DC, I don't know what DC stands for, out of South Carolina State. Kelvin McKnight, a wide receiver out of Samford. Howard Steffens, a defensive tackle out of Shorter. Larry Tharp, a defensive tackle out of Arizona. And Jamar Washington, a wide receiver out of Southern. So some interesting college name there. I have never heard of the college that's Shorter. That's very fun there. But that's your news for our SeaDragons for the final for this week.